Hello and welcome back to my channel. And today we are going to read the other schools of Buddhist philosophy, which are the Sautantrika school and the Vaibhashika school. So, let's get started. Sautantrika, like John Locke in Western philosophy, they support representative realism. Sautantrika accept that reality of both mind as well as external objects. So, Sautantrika is basically a representative realist school because it accepts, just like John Locke, that both mind as well as external objects are real. So, they try to prove the validity of both of these external worlds as well as the mental world. They believe that mind can perceive only the copy or representation of external objects. So, mind can only perceive the copy or representation of external objects. So, whatever you're seeing or whatever you are experiencing right now is just a mirage, you could say, or it's just an illusion. But this illusion is very real. From this copy, we can infer the existence of the external world. This view is known as Vaya Anumeya Vad. So, what they mean by propounding this theory is that whatever you're seeing or whatever you're trying to experience right now is just a copy or representation of the external world. It's like from this copy you can infer the existence of the external world, and this is kind of a representative realism because the real world is a representation or a copy of the mental world, and from these copies you can actually infer what the actual object you are trying to perceive is. So this is called by Anumayavad, and as you can see from the from the word breakdown of it, Bahya is the outer or the external. Anumaya can be referred to as the inference. So they're trying to focus more upon the inference part, and what they mean is that uh, the mind can perceive only the copy or representation of the external object. This copy, one can through this copy one can infer the existence of the external world. So this is what the Sautantrika school actually means. Sautantrika basically, the word Sautantrika comes from the word sutra. Sutra are the scriptures. The next school is the Vaibhashika school, or we could say Sarvastivadins. So if we try to break down the word Sarvastivadins, Sarva means all, Asti means exist. So they believe in the existence of both the mind as well as the external world. So they believe both on the mental and the non-mental world. Like many modern neorealists, they accept the existence of both mind as well as external objects based on direct perception. So, unlike the Swatantrika, they believe in direct perception and they believe in both the existence of the external as well as the mental world. This view can be called as direct common sense or naive realism. Bahya Pratyakshava. So Bahya, as we have read, is the external. Pratyaksh is the perception. So they believe in the direct contact of the senses or the direct perception of the objects which we are getting, and this is why they believe in the existence of both the mental and the non-mental world, and they are called as Sarvastivadins. So critical estimates of the above views. Till now we have read the Madhyamika Shunyavad, the Yogacara Vigyanvad, Swatantrika school of Buddhism, and the Vaibhashika. So we're going to read about the critical views regarding these philosophies. Shunyavadin's view of complete denial of existence of mind and objects is a self-contradictory position. As critics point out, the philosophical systems which uphold a totally skeptic and nihilistic adopt a self-negating position. According to some of the Orthodox philosophers, none of their views can be qualified as a philosophical doctrine. So, according to many philosophers, the Madhyamika Shunyavadin's view that neither does the external world exist and nor does the mental world. They are in a complete denial of existence of mind and objects. Uh, they are in a self-negating position, and this cannot be qualified as a philosophical doctrine according to some critics. Subjective idealism can be criticized from a Sarvastivadin's realist position in the following ways. So, subjective idealism was taught in by the Vigyan Vad, which basically said that uh, external objects are dependent on the mind, so nothing can exist in isolation, and it is because of the dependency on the mind that we could perceive the external objects. However, the Sarvastivadins or the Vaibhashika says that the external as well as the mental objects both exist, and perception is the direct perception is the only way to know it, and this is sometimes refers to as the realist position. So, first, it can be said that external objects are mere ideas in mind. It can't be said that external objects are mere ideas in mind because the mind at will cannot create an object. This is very true because if we are saying that external objects are merely the ideas or merely the representations in mind, uh, then mind at all cannot create any object. It is not that you could create a sky, flower, or a unicorn at your will. You would have seen it somewhere, you would have perceived it, or you would have heard about it. There might have been some contact or some sense experience or some verbal testimony, something about it. Otherwise, you could not actually perceive the idea of it. They say that mind at will cannot create any objects, and because of that, external objects are not mere ideas in mind. Even though the form of object lies in consciousness, it is the object which causes the form to get into the consciousness. So, uh, even though the form of the object lies in the consciousness, or even though you would have the idea, or you could imaginarily create a unicorn or a sky flower, anything, but to get into existence or to get into consciousness, object need to exist. The object is the one which causes the form to get into the consciousness. Second, in a normal experience, different individuals perceive same objects simultaneously. So you would have got the reference that people interpret different ideas differently. For something, for somebody it might be the number six. For somebody it might be the number nine. So these are just different point of views of the same object. So in a normal experience, different individuals perceive same object differently. This implies objects are not mere mental constructs. So if it would have been a mental construct, everybody would have perceived the same object as like they would have perceived it similarly in a similar way. But this implies objects are not mere mental constructs, but the cause of ideas in the mind. So objects are not mere mental constructs, but the cause of ideas in the mind. So these are the ones which cause the ideas in the mind, and because of these ideas, we could infer many more things. Third, if there were no external objects, the distinction between consciousness of a pot and consciousness of a cloth would have been impossible, since both consciousness would be identical. So the distinction about the consciousness is also developed on the basis of the external objects, because if there were no external objects, distinction between two different types of consciousness would have not been possible, and everything would have been the same. So the consciousness of a cloth or the consciousness of a pot would have been similar or identical. Fourth, we can never say object and consciousness are identical. If both were identical, we would have said, I am the pot. But we are saying I am conscious of the existence of pot outside my mind. So if the object were ideas in our mind, in our consciousness, then we could never say that the object and the consciousness both are identical. If both were identical, we would have said that okay, I am the pot. But what we're trying to say is that I have the consciousness, I'm aware of the consciousness, and because of it, I could perceive a pot outside my mind. Representationalism, Sautantrika, when analyzed from the perspective of a direct realist, so the direct realists are the Vaibhashikas, has the following shortcomings. So Swatantrika says that we can only perceive the copy of the extra mental object and infer its existence. This is what the Swatantrika school basically professed, that we could only see the copy of the ideas, copy of the extra mental object, and infer its existence on the basis of those ideas. For inferring the existence of external object, it has to be perceived at least once. So what the Vaibhashika school or the realist tried to criticize is that in order to infer the existence of an external object, you could not infer it by just mere ideas. You should have a perception of it at least once. Then only you could create a representation of it or a copy of it and like prove its existence. From Sutantrika position, we can have direct access only to the copy of the object which lies in our consciousness. The improbability of the existence of objects based on representative realism landed John Locke, a Western philosopher, in his dictum of I know not what, which culminated in subjective idealism of Berkeley. So, in a similar lines of this Tantrika representationalist realism, uh, the Western philosopher John Locke, in his dictum of I know not what, uh, later culminated into the subjective idealism of Berkeley. Likewise, Sautantrika position will end up in Vigyanvad, moving away from realism. From a commonsensical point position, it is better to accept the existence of an object through perception than through inference, because your inference can be sometimes wrong because you do not know what the kind of what is the chain of thoughts you are trying to infer, and it could be different for different people, but the perception would be the same. The issues with Sarvastivadi's view is that they can never prove the existence of object beyond sensations or ideas which find their substratum in the mind. So, although Sarvastivadins have criticized the Sautantrika and the Vaibhashika schools for their claim that the objects are mere ideas or the non acceptance of the mental and a non mental world together, but they themselves could not prove the existence of both the object and the mental world beyond the sensation of ideas which find their substratum in the mind. It is said that both realist and idealist are successful in refuting each other's position, but not so in establishing their own position. So, with this, we've come to an end of this video. I hope you would have liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next one where we talk more about nirvana and the other concepts related to Buddhism. Till then, see ya. Bye.